Hello and welcome to this festive webinar where we're looking at festive lesson planning with Education City. So looking at the tools that we have to support cross-curricular learning in this festive season, if you like. Now it's going to appear slightly different today, not what you're used to in these webinars, because what we're going to be doing is using the great handout that you're going to be receiving, looking at the festive activity ideas that we have for you and how Education City can support you in those ideas. So, as always, when we go into the Education City account, it is a made-up school. Please don't worry about any names that you may see. Plus, it is an English school as well. So certain areas might appear slightly differently to you, but it still does the same thing. As always, though, we do have the Q&A button that you'll find on your taskbar. This will enable you to ask questions throughout the webinar. Any questions that you may have for us, please do ask. That Q&A function will enable you to ask questions anonymously as well. So if you'd rather do that, there is a function to tick anonymous and that will appear without your name. Alternatively, you can use the chat box as well. Just be aware that that won't ping up on my screen like the question, so it may take me a while to get to that. Right, I think that's everything. So we will begin. So as I mentioned, this is the handout that you will be receiving. And these are filled with festive activity ideas for English or literacy, maths or numeracy, and science as well. And just a couple of things that I used to use with my students when I was teaching, a couple of ideas in there for you. You'll probably have your own ideas that you use, but this is a great way of being able to sort of celebrate the festive season, or indeed celebrating winter if you're not a Christmas celebrator. Obviously all adaptable there as well. So heading down the handout here, starting off with a festive poem. And obviously we all love poems, producing different poems, and these will be different depending upon the year that we select and obviously the students that are completing the poems. So there's a couple of ideas here for you. This one here, the thing I love most about winter is it's a repetitive poem, so writing those all out. And obviously you can always substitute winter for Christmas if you like, or the festive period, whatever you wish to do. Now you'll find as well within each activity idea, there may be a tip for you that brings you to one of the Education City resources. Alongside each of those, there is a code. And the benefit about that is that what you can do is, so for example, here we've got 19883. If I head into Education City and into the search content area in the top right-hand side of the screen, there we go. And if we type in 19883 into that, it will bring up the exact piece of content that we are referring to. So it's a really, really good way of being able to say, okay, this is what we've sort of suggested for you. Have a look at it. You may not use it, doesn't matter. This is just what we've suggested to go hand in hand with the activity that we're talking about. And obviously we've got loads of different tools to support poetry. Heading down a little further into some of the upper year groups, you may want to write an acrostic poem with your students. That's always a winner, isn't it? And you can see again within the tip, there's a think it that will support your students there as well. Heading right down to writing a haiku and a kenning. A couple of examples there that I wrote myself, quite proud of those. And again, using that search function, really handy because you can type in that keyword and the things will appear. And you'll find each of those tools Obviously, this might appear slightly different just here in terms of the age ranges or the class names or the levels, but the content types at the bottom there will remain the same. And the little icons will remain the same no matter where you're accessing Education City from. Scrolling back up onto our homepage again, because if we head down a little bit further, we'll go into our next literacy or English task, which is writing a festive story. Obviously, you can think of your own ideas, and I've just put a couple of options in there. So imagine if the seasons were people, or if Santa's reindeer could talk, and you could explore that a little bit further. You could look at writing a short story or just a paragraph, or even writing a character profile. And then bit of an option there. Imagine if winter overslept, what would happen to spring? Or if one of Santa's reindeers overslept, what would happen next? So just a couple of ideas there. And once again, you'll find an absolute abundance of Education City resources to support story writing. Everything you need from describing a setting, a scene, doing a character profile, creating characters, right down to creating and structuring the story itself. So do have a look, and once again, a couple of ideas there for you, as well as an idea for remote learning. Now, moving down on to maths or numeracy, winter shapes is always a good one. Looking at sort of 2D shapes, creating certain images. And this is the sort of thing that you could obviously develop higher up the school. Instead of just 2D shapes, you could look at 3D shapes, you could look at more complex 2D shapes, such as hexagons or pentagons. But you can always create a picture. You could do what we used to use called mirroring, where you used to fold your piece of paper in half, stick a picture one side and try and replicate it the other side, or even fold it into four. Try and replicate maybe a snowflake, for example. Other really great idea, something I used to do with my students, is getting one of them, maybe in partners, to draw a picture using 2D shapes or 3D shapes. As an example, and then describing to their partner how to create it using the correct vocabulary. Always interesting to find out what people have drawn following their partner's instructions. And obviously instruction writing leading right back to literacy there as well. It's just a nice fun way of looking at different shapes and exploring the vocabulary that comes alongside that. You'll find loads of resources for shapes, whether 2D, 3D, complex, symmetrical, whatever you want. Loads of them on Education City. And again, another quick tip there, finding shapes around the house or cutting them out of scrap paper and then assembling them into a picture is always a nice little way to make Christmas cards, for example, or even a calendar for the new year. Heading back down a little further, festive or winter coding. Now, the reason I've put this into maths or numeracy is because you can look at, for example, if a number represents a letter, so 1 would be A, 2 would be B, 3 would be C, and so on and so forth. It's a great activity for practicing addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Because if, for example, you've put 3 times 1 as one of the questions, obviously that would be 3. The first letter would be C, and so on and so forth. And you can get the children to maybe create their own for their peers to solve. I've done a bit of an example for you down here, but using Christmas baubles instead, and looking at those different colours and how you can create different messages, for example, using those baubles. You can create your own, you can use any shapes you want to, or as I mentioned earlier, number sentences and make them as complex as you want to as well. Throw in a few brackets if you want to. But you can really sort of get to grips with having fun, creating coded messages, answering coded messages, but practicing those key skills as well. Moving on to fractions. Personally, fractions is a fantastic way or a fantastic unit for Wintel, the festive period. There are so many things you can do, looking at fractions shapes, for example. Tracing papers always a good way of sort of replicating certain fractions. Fractions of presence, you can look at equal fractions, adding fractions, taking away fractions, fractions of shape, fractions of number, whatever you want to do using EducationCity. And again, to give you a bit of an example of those, you'll find within EducationCity, you can head into, for example, activities, have a look for fractions just there, and you'll find an absolute abundance of tools. And don't forget as well, we've got our My Cities. So there's nothing to stop you from creating a Festive Fractions My City folder as an example and exploring the different tools in there. And you can see obviously some think it's there for class discussion, maybe for problem solving, range of learn screens for that independent learning. And don't forget those sequenced learn screens just there, part 1 and part 2, as well as sequenced activities. You can see there part 1 and part 2, and linked activity learn screens as well. You've got your introduction and you've got your main activity. Always remembering all activities are marked for you on EducationCity. Really, really useful tool to maybe cut down some of that marking over the festive period. We know how hard teachers work, and we want to help you in sort of saving you a little bit of time, maybe. Heading back onto the handout, I've also tried to save you a little bit more time by putting some problems, fraction problem solving in there for you. So some baubles in the bag just here and different questions relating to that. Obviously, may inspire some of your own questions or for students to write their own questions for each other, but just something that will help you out a little bit more. Statistics is always a nice one to do, whether you're looking at why this is your favourite time of the year. Personally, it's because it sometimes snows. Love the snow. But you could explore why it's people's favourite time of the year. You could look at what people like to do in the snow, throw snowballs, make a snowman, make snow angels, or even which one of Santa's reindeer is your favourite. Personally, I'm a Donna fan, but up to you. But you'll find loads of resources for different statistics areas as well. Heading into the subjects area, what you will find, obviously different for each of the year groups, I'm just going to go down the middle just here. The benefit is that you do have that left-hand column just here. So you can just look for statistics, or you can look for something via the topic filter just here. And as I mentioned earlier, it will be different depending upon the year group you select. If you're joining me from outside of England, this may appear slightly differently to you, but it does the same job. You choose your year group, whatever year group you are after. You find the area that you're looking for, the unit, and you can have a look for the different tools. And as I mentioned earlier, having a look at statistics, or even something like block graphs, diagrams, tally charts, whatever you want to look for, that's a really useful way of being able to find those tools. And you'll find more tools the more you explore. Again, a couple of recommended tools there for you. And then a remote learning activity, talking to family members maybe and asking what their favourite things are at this time of the year. Who enjoys putting up the Christmas tree? Who enjoys having a bit of time off school maybe? You see all the teachers have got their hands up now. Heading down into science. Obviously, we are a core subject provider, and science is a core subject in terms of that sort of scientific inquiry and investigation. This is a brilliant task to do, and looking at winter clothes, how to keep warm in winter, what sort of things you might wear, and what will materials be made out of. Again, heading back to Education City, I have to show you in Science Upper Key Stage 2 Think It's, there's a fantastic Think It that talks about how you can keep warm, and in particular, looking at how you can keep Granny's hot chocolate warm. You've got your problem just there, you can investigate it, maybe write some instructions on how to make some hot chocolate in literacy or English. But then within your answer, Granny's wrapped some wool around her hot chocolate mug, but can she use the same thing to keep her fruit juice cool? So it's all about exploring materials, and in that sense, what materials keep us warm and what materials keep us cool as well. Scrolling down a little further, you can see here talking about clothes you wear in winter, designing a winter outfit, for example, labeling the materials that you've used as well. And obviously looking at that comparison there also. Heading a little further down, we know that a lot of animals hibernate in winter. So looking at sort of the habitats of those animals, why they might hibernate, and obviously where they live in terms of the food that they get and how they hibernate just there. And you could look at a favourite I used to do with my year fours were, if you were going to hibernate, where would you hibernate and what would you need with you? You'll get a range of answers with that one, but it's always a really good sort of investigation if you like. Again, you'll find some lovely tools. Here we go. Using that search function, typing in the word habitats, you'll find some brilliant resources. These brand new wheel topic tools just here are fantastic for looking at sort of different habitats and obviously talking about whether these animals might hibernate or not. And we can spin all of those, as you can see just there, or we could nudge one of them, see if they match just there as well. Or obviously you could choose one. Let's choose the seashore and ask the students to find the one that matches. You see there's some quite nice ones there. There we go. But obviously you could go through, you could have a look at these. There we go. And obviously looking at which animals hibernate in that instance as well. Finally, looking at Education City in general, don't forget that we do have our targeted lesson objectives through the curriculum map. You can obviously use My Cities to plan in advance, or planning for home learning. Use the group function for differentiation, and obviously those assessments there to finding out where your students are at. All of our resources can be used for all of your students. You can differentiate them, you can label the groups and the My Cities for that differentiation purpose. Just want to show you a couple more things before we go. In EYFS, you'll find some fantastic brand new resources. And this one here is so lovely, looking at seasons and how they affect the natural world. So really, really useful way of linking, obviously, winter as a season and obviously the weather there as well. And you'll find that that's a Learn Screen activity link. So you can use both of those just there. Feel free to explore things like our Moody Monsters series, which is lovely, and even down to buildings where you live in terms of the habitats. Lots of resources. You just need the time to play, the time to explore everything. So that is pretty much everything from me. Has anybody got any questions for me? Just having a quick look. As I mentioned, by registering for the webinar, we will send you that sort of festive lesson ideas handout. Please feel free to use it and obviously share it with your colleagues as well. Well, I hope to see you soon. If I don't see you before the new year, have a lovely Christmas, a great festive break, and have a bit of a rest over the Christmas period as well. If you need to get in touch with me, you can via customer service at educationcity.com. That's customer service at educationcity.com. I will be happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you very much, Bernie. I know you're a regular attendee of our webinars. I do look forward to seeing your name when you've signed up. I do look forward to that. And thank you very much. I'm pleased that you found the webinar useful. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.